Thank you, the conference team, for giving me an ample opportunity to present and talk about a very burning topic. So, just the previous presentation was on calves, but I'd like to take a step back. I'd like to talk about animals that need to actually produce the calves, that is, the lactating animals, or even heifers for that point of time. One of the major thing that we really be talking about here is a burning problem of repeat breeding and stress and different aspects that actually contribute to repeat breeding and stress to actually to actually give birth to the calves. So moving forward, one of the major aim of the dairy industry is to actually produce one calf a year, and this is something that we have been constantly been talked about. We discussed this, but the real scenario when you get into the field, the situation is far different. There are animals that have not come to heat for almost 3 to 4 years in some places. People tend to keep them for emotional connect, but the reality is, in the end, the farm profitability takes a hit. So coming, thinking about the farm profitability as such, when we think about it, it is always better to have one calf a year for better production as well as reproduction. So that is what I'd like to really talk about here. Now, yeah, this is a bit of a cluttered slide, but when we think about it, it is basically going to dawn some light on this. When you look at different states, the percentage or the anistis levels are quite high. I mean, it ranges in different places based on the different nutritional aspects, environmental conditions. There are almost, you can say on an average 30 to 40% of the farms. I mean, the animals in a particular farm could have repeat breeding or anistis kind of conditions. And this is just you can say it's more of a meta-analysis kind of a thing. But when we look at it, there are many states that are having repeat breeding as a major challenge. And when we just deep dive into it, one of the major aspects that I'd like to really talk about here is a nutritional intervention. Yes, there are a lot of go-to therapies, treatments, all of that. Yes, that is there. But I'll be majorly talking more about the nutritional aspect of repeat breeding. So when we look into it, one of the major thing that comes into mind is to actually formulate rations, keeping in mind the energy as well as the protein levels. So places like Punjab, for example, based on what I've noticed, they tend to have almost 25-26% protein while they're creating energy deficiency. So in the end, that protein itself is getting wasted, or it's probably getting creating a lot of certain reactive substances that are probably not harmful. They're probably harmful. So keeping that in mind, the energy as well as the protein balance, we'd like to also talk about certain functional nutrients that are crucial. And that is basically the crux of my presentation and what we did. So when you look at it, the energetics, definitely the energy is partitioned in this way. But what I'd really like to talk about is to create a perfect balance between the energy as well as the protein levels in feeds, and probably adding some bit of a supportive element to support repeat breeding. So just to give this is again this slide just to talk about one of the major thing here. I'd like to emphasize is basically the nutritional aspect, because it looks like nutrition is actually the major cause for poor plane of nutrition seems to be the major cause for repeat breeding in animals. And apart from the poor plane of nutrition, we are also talking about trace mineral deficiencies. This is just, of course, it's collected over a period of time, serum of animals, different states. Some of them has been the research has been done by NIANP itself. But just to give you an idea, zinc and copper seem to be highly deficient in animals, and it is well known that every mineral plays a very crucial role in the production of reproductive hormones or anything of like, for example, the expression of estrus. But what I'd like to emphasize here is zinc and copper seems to be quite important. One more thing, just to since we are here in NINP, this is also one bit of research that NINP had done. So just to give you an idea, that trace mineral, macro mineral deficiency seems to be a major problem that causes repeat breeding. So now, why am I here? The thing here is we were posed with a particular challenge. A particular cooperative in the western part of India seemed to be having a lot of problem with respect to repeat breeding. So that area is typically there's a lot of temperature differences, heat stress is quite common. There is a lack of awareness about repeat breeding for these farmers in this particular cooperative. So they gave us a particular a challenge. They had a lot of animals, they needed to get them back to heat. And the idea here was, because these farmers they lack the awareness to actually supplement a particular kind of mineral mixture, for example, or any kind of supplement. The idea here was to actually incorporate that into their cattle feed or the pelleted feed that they use. So that was the real challenge, and actually formulating, doing the trial, and what actually came out of it is what I'm going to be talking about. So this is just one, the heat status. There were almost 40% of the animals had antistress. Irregular heat about 48%. Silent heat was seen in about 42% of the animals, and some of them were coming in heat, but then it was not really observed as such. So the idea here was to actually create a kind of formulation incorporating certain trace minerals, or some kind of a mineral formulation as such, with certain aspects that could reduce stress, improve the immunity, keeping a more 360 holistic approach in terms of repeat breeding. So there are a lot of factors, infections, immunity, a lot of things are there that actually matter here. Keeping that in mind, we made this kind of a formulation, and this is basically the proximate principles of this formulation. Uh, and this is what we wanted to put it to the test. So the idea here is we incorporated through the feed, because typically feed additives are not typically they're used into the dairy farm directly as an on top supplementation, but this is more on through the feed. So we create a bit of precision nutrition as a concept. We manage the protein, we manage the energy levels, we manage the amino acid levels that have been properly balanced with rumen protected technologies, and then we actually incorporate this kind of a formulation. So keeping this in mind, we put this product to the test, or this kind of a feed formulation to the test, and this is what we got. So cows and buffaloes crossbreeds, they gave us about 90 animals. We were able to get half of these animals. And keep this in mind, there are certain animals that have been repeating from almost 3 to 4 years or 4 to 5 years. These kind of animals, or at least also were able to come back to cycling, and they were able to come back to heat. So that is actually a major success for this, and this is keeping in mind when we and this is actually a testament to the fact that if you are able to manage the protein, energy, trace minerals, macro minerals, vitamins with some kind of supplements that could prevent the effect of heat stress or improve the immunity, there's nothing like it. It's always a better solution to actually go into it. This is just basically a formulation that we had made. The idea here is to tackle trace mineral deficiencies, and one major aspect is about omega-3 fatty acids, eicosapentaenoic and docosahexaenoic acid. So this kind of combination is able to better create a much better environment in the much better uterine environment, create a much better system where the trace mineral deficiencies are very well tackled, so that expression of estrus is much more easier. So this is, of course, certain things can be used in different solutions. Again, we are talking about higher bioavailability of these kind of minerals, especially the kind of chelation technology that has been used, such that it is there for a longer period of time, and the animal can express estrus at a proper interval. So the idea here was to have this in mind. So a lot of research that has been done, pardon me for a couple of minutes, a lot of research getting animals back to heat, even silent heat, animals can be got back to heat, improvement in the conception rate, or reducing the services per conception. That's the basic goal of tackling repeat breeding issues. But improving the graphical follicle size, improving the hormonal levels, as well as creating the right environment for conception to take place or implantation to take place. The other idea was actually to improve the immunity with a form of coated vitamin C. Now, the idea here is to actually improve not only the immunity, but also create that that kind of an antioxidant activity that can prevent any kind of oocyte damage. So the idea here, again, reducing the services per conception And typically, again, we are trying to improve the follicular development and finally create a much more better environment for conception to take place. So overall, the idea here was we create this kind of a feed, taking considering a more 360-degree approach, keeping in mind different challenges that are there for the animals. Now this is in terms of energy protein balancing. We are also talking about rumen protected technologies. We are talking about improving the trace mineral deficiency as well as macro mineral deficiency, and this was actually given at 2.5 kg per animal per day, and the results that we got were phenomenal in this case. So the thing what we need to really consider, just to conclude this, taking the idea of precision nutrition with proper formulation is the key. Finally, and when we're looking at protein energy balance, that is crucial. We should be able to consider different kind of additives into the feed, that could improve not only the reproduction aspect but also the production aspect. So we're talking about coated vitamin C, trace minerals, enzymes, biosurfactants, rumen protected amino acids. These kind of things really tend to make things easier for a formulator. And one more thing is convenience at heart, and we're again taking this thing a little bit forward. We're talking about creating therapeutic feeds that could actually position not only for improving the milk production or any of that, but we're talking about solving a particular problem like repeat breeding or improving immunity or things like mastitis. So it is a very exciting future ahead, especially when we try to tackle repeat breeding challenges or any stress as a problem. And yeah, I think this is all as a point where we try to think more futuristically and work together. Thank you.